Today we'll be installing a Four Seasons AC compressor in my 2010 Dodge Ram. This is what it looks like outside of the box. You just have the 3 bolts and the connector. It already has 3 ounces of oil in it, but the manufacturer recommends for my truck 6 ounces. So I threw 3 more ounces of this inside of here. I measured it out with a little baby bottle, and I just slowly poured it in once this was off. So we're going to get started with this, and I'll show you how. Alright, so here's my truck. We got the hood open. AC compressor is all the way down here. So the first thing we're going to have to do is loosen the tensioner to loosen the belt. We'll pop it off, and then we'll try to replace the compressor. So I'm going to take my breaker bar here, stick it in the tensioner pulley. My buddy Steve's here to help me out today. An extra pair of hands helps out a lot with this job. So use my breaker bar, take the belt off, and now here we're underneath the truck. A lot of this is going to be fast forward, that way I'm not wasting everyone's time of me struggling to get these bolts out. The truck's 13 years old, so the bolts are kind of in there, but it's not that hard of a job. So here I'm trying to take off the refrigerant lines. The camera angle isn't the best for this, but it's just 2 bolts, or 2 nuts I should say. They come off the stud, and once they're off, you can move the refrigerant lines out of your way a little bit. I'm able to reach the nuts for the refrigerant lines down below a little easier than up top. I've got one of the nuts out. There's a better shot, kind of right there. See where I'm working. There you go. Now we're going to work on getting the bolts free of the compressor. The top bolt is easier to access from up above, so I struggle with it down here, but my helper Steve here, he actually finishes loosening the bolt from the top. He has a better angle. Here I'm going to work on the back bolt. It's not the greatest shot, but I can only do so much. So now that I have the back bolt pulled out, we're going to continue pulling out the top bolt. Whenever that bolt comes free, the compressor's gonna drop. So this is where a second set of hand also comes in handy. So here now you see Steve loosening the bolt from his end while I'm holding it from underneath. Now that bolt's free, the compressor comes on out. So this is the old compressor. And what you would like to do is compare it to the new compressor. On this compressor, I guess it's universal for multiple cars, so it has different posts. So we're gonna take the caps off. I already added oil. The compressor comes with new gaskets and new O-rings for the HVAC lines. I would suggest using a pick tool. Right here I'm using a flathead. It didn't really work out too great. I had to get a hooked pick tool that helped out a lot, and it was a lot easier to do it that way. Here you can see me picking out the old O-rings and grabbing the new ones. They're two different sizes, so it can only go one way. You want to make sure that they're snug and not loose in any way. Here I kind of lost one of the O-rings, so I was searching all over the place for it, and I wind up finding it and comparing it to the old one. So here we're putting the compressor back. We're just trying to start the first bolt up top. And once we have that in, we can start bolting in the rest of them. So now that we have both front bolts in, I'm going to go ahead and do the back. Alright, so right here I went to go put the HVAC lines back on, but I had issues where I forgot to move the stud in the correct orientation. Whenever you look at your compressor, there's going to be two stud holes on the first where the first line goes, and I didn't pay attention to this before I installed the new compressor. So all I did was take I think it was a 5 or 6 millimeter socket, and I just unscrewed the stud and I moved it to the correct orientation of how the vehicle is supposed to be, and I just screwed it back into that hole. And then after I did that, I put the HVAC lines back on, and then something that I didn't show was evacuating the system. You can find other videos online about that, but essentially you have a vacuum pump with some gauges, and you just turn the vacuum pump on to get rid of all the moisture or any air that was in the compressor. And then once you do that, you can fill it with Freon. Alright, compressor's in. I'm going to put the belt back on the pulleys in the correct orientation. You want to make sure that this is correct. And now that that's done, everything's good. Job is finished. Good job, guys.